Talk. Talk. Talk to me Tuesday. Welcome to Talk to Me Tuesday on a Tuesday. I'm your host, Madi B, and today we have our third episode of Sexual Abuse Human Trafficking series. We have been doing the series for the past 2 months, one show every month highlighting this topic. It's been so special to us because we really have been able to dive deep into this topic, which allows us to help, but most importantly, to educate. Last month, we spoke with attorney Rochelle Guyton during the second episode, where to get help if you are a survivor, or know of a loved one on where to go to get the proper help. The first episode we had was the most impactful. We uncovered what everything means. What is an abuser? What is an abusee? What do they look like? We highly encourage you to go back and watch those episodes to really shed some light to this third episode. Today's show is special because we're introducing to you guys the sexual abuse team at D. Miller & Associates PLLC. This is very impactful because if you or a loved one gives us a call, you will see who you will be working with during this tough time. I think it's very important you guys get to meet them and really hear their warm hearts and why they are here. We really want to open up those lines of communication and hear what you guys have to say. Any comments, questions, or concerns. We are here to educate you guys, and educate our society. I think it's ready to meet our first guest. So we have our first guest, which is Mary. Mary is our survivor liaison. So welcome, Mary.
Hi.
It's such a pleasure to have you on the show. And I want you to kind of tell our guests a little bit about your role. What is that survivor liaison?
A survivor liaison is a person that helps the clients. It's more of a long-term commitment with the client. I work with them. I was a social worker for about 5 years, so it's a social worker aspect in the legal field. So I am working with the clients, giving them referrals, emotional support, any type of counseling they may need, things like that. That's what I'm.
Wow, you said that you used to do or be a social worker.
Yes.
What was it like working as a social worker? I want you to kind of tell us a little bit about that experience.
That experience was very interesting. I worked with survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, sex trafficking, human trafficking, a lot of different aspects in that field. Working with survivors, I learned a lot. So I brought that to what I'm doing now.
Wow, that's amazing. So how long were you doing your position as a social worker prior to working here?
About 5 years.
Ooh, okay. That's enough experience to bring it over here in the law firm of D. Miller & Associates. So tell us, what are you going to bring to the table here at D. Miller & Associates that you've learned as a social worker?
I would bring what the survivors taught me. They taught me a lot of different things about how to work with them. Working with survivors is you have to help them sometimes because sometimes they don't have trust because of the trauma they experience. So I help work with them or work through their trauma.
So you're saying the trauma, they go through a trauma period, and sometimes they don't see light at the end of the tunnel. And so getting to pick up the phone and speak to someone like yourself is really lifting that heaviness that they have in their heart. So that is the role that you play. You really help them through that time whenever they give us a call.
Yes,
okay.
It's a long-term thing. So if they're having trouble, maybe getting their story out, I'm that person they can talk to, and I try to make them feel comfortable, because sometimes you might not get the whole story right then. So sometimes you have to, I have to say, oh, you could just give me a little bit right now, and maybe later when you're up to it, you can give me a little bit more.
Yeah, I could see the truth behind that, Mary, because, sometimes whenever an individual goes through something, it's very tough to get the whole story out with the emotion. And then, sometimes you may leave some things out. So I could see the importance of having more than one conversation. So I think that is great. Tell us a little bit of what type of sexual abuse cases you guys help with here.
We have men, we have women, we have children, we have the USC cases, the Glen Mills, clergy, New Orleans, like we have a bunch of different cases.
Okay. So anything that encompasses the word sexual abuse, it's something that you guys may help. I know every case is different, but you guys may be able to help, which is awesome. Let me ask you the golden question. So what made you transition to the legal field?
Being in social work, you see a lot of different things. And so I decided to transition because I saw a lot of different things that I felt like survivors may need a little help with. And so I felt like I could advocate for the survivors. And so I decided that maybe being on the legal side of things could help.
Yeah, I think that's very powerful. You just said advocate for the survivors, and I know here we definitely fight for their story. So I think that's very powerful. What are you the most excited about in this position, in this team, in this law firm? I mean, it could go 1,000 miles, but what are you the most excited about?
I'm excited about learning new things, putting myself out there to help survivors and letting them know that they're not alone. Like, I'm here to help.
Yeah, no, I think that is super awesome to kind of hear that excitement. So I want to kind of get your feedback. Tell us some things that you may have seen or heard that made you really have a warm heart.
Well, I had a client before, and the situation was she was with her family, and her father sexually assaulted her, and so that I didn't know what to do, and so that made me want to like do more. So she brought it to my attention, and she told me, and she didn't know what to do, and so I didn't know what to do, so I just talked to her, and she told me when it was all over, she was like, you were the only person that actually listened to me. And she said, you listening to me helped me.
Wow.
And I was like, that right there, that made me feel good. Because I was like, I didn't even have to do much, but just listening to her meant a lot to her, and that made me feel good.
Yeah, and I know, look, listening, you're just saying listening was something that you did for that individual. Listening is super important in this role. And so you've listened to a lot of stories, okay? You have a lot of stories, but tell us about a story of a survivor that has changed your life.
So I had a client that was in a bad situation. That's what she called it. And she was like, I'm struggling. I was sexually assaulted, and it just kept happening. So I was like, okay, I know what to do. I know I can help her. I was like, okay, I have this number. She's a client that was far, so like I couldn't like just go run to her.
Right.
So I was like looking for resources for her, and she said, Mary, that helps me. Like those resources help me. And so that changed my point of view, like really. It changed my point of view very differently.
Yeah.
So I was like, yes, I was able to help somebody. Like she was able to get her own place. She was able to move and get out of the situation that she was in. So that changed me so much.
I feel the excitement from your voice, and I love it because it sounds like you really do truly love to help people. And so is that something you also offer? I know we do have clients all over the United States. So some of those resources are not here locally, right? Those resources are in other states. So do you also provide that help to our clients?
Yes, we have clients all over as well. So yes, I help them with with whatever they may need. If I can't find that, get that answer right then and there, I will look for it.
Awesome.
I will find it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mary, for being a part of this team, and we will see you here in a little bit at the end of the show, okay?
Thank you.
So next up, we have Randy. So Randy is a case manager, survivor case manager. So we have Randy on the set. So before we go on to that, we do have a live comment. We have Kimona saying, "Go sister." So I love that you guys are rooting for either your family members or your friends here. I think that's what it's about, just having power behind what we're doing. So Randy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, it's such a pleasure to have you. So tell us a little bit about what you do, and really, what does a survivor case manager mean?
Well, I go into it as, looking deep into our clients' information, just trying to figure out what I can do to better their case, help them as much as possible, look for evidence for them, just to, be that individual to get everything I need for their case to, shoot it straight to the top.
Awesome. Awesome. So that's pretty good, because it sounds like you're looking at all of the, let's see, the facts and the stuff pertaining to the case.
Right.
So tell us about what you've been exposed to. Okay, I'm sure you've been exposed to a lot as a case manager that made you change your views on this topic, which we're talking specifically about sexual abuse.
Well, I've been exposed to a lot of things. Like, it's just a lot of the people aren't heard, and that's what they're looking for. Is just someone to hear them out, to hear their story, and listening to and reading, and having clients come to me and say, hey, this happened, and just hearing everything that they go through. I want to be someone that they can come to and say, hey, I need some assistance. I need that help.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, our clients get in deep in their story. So you hear, it's normal for you to hear from all types of details on their case.
Yes.
Okay. So it's not just if you or a loved one out there are watching and you guys have been sexually abused or know of someone. It's not just, it's kind of diving deep into the surface, not just general. So speaking of that, tell us of some things that you've seen or heard that makes you want to make a difference towards the survivors.
Well, I've actually known someone who's actually a survivor, and trying to be that help is really all they're looking for. I mean, yeah, they want you to hear their whole story out. They want you to, be that person, not just, just one of our clients, but someone they can also speak to and just, generally talk to about, some of the things that's going on with them, even outside of just their case. So, bringing that aspect to the table as far as trying to, be their case manager, also being someone, for them to listen to, then, that's really, exciting for me.
Yeah. So you're saying you're not only a survivor case manager, but you're also a survivor supporter. You really support them through their journey. Okay. It's a very huge responsibility. Okay. You're also doing the case managing, but it also sounds that you're there for them every step of the way on whatever they need.
Yes.
It is a tough time, and we're going to shed some light about that. So Randy, tell us of what made you go into this profession.
Well, just knowing that I can be the individual that can help others. Like, who wants to sit back and just read about it, in newspaper, look at it on the news and just say, oh, well, there's nothing I can do. I want to say, okay, I've seen this happen. Let me help. Like, let me, shed some light on a situation that, is really dim. So I try to put all I can into trying to help every client that we have, not just, being their case manager, but just someone they can reach out to.
I love what you said, Randy. You said doing something about it. I know a lot of us, we're either watching things on video or reading things, and it takes us, the individual, to put that foot forward and really make a difference and a change. So I love that you said those words, because that speaks 1,000 words. So tell us what you're the most excited about of bringing to the table here at D. Miller and Associates.
Giving our clients that comfort. Like, we're here to listen to your story. We're here to, be that individual that's going to help you throughout the whole entire situation, to give you that comfort. Say, hey, okay, well, I understand you're working on my case, but you're giving me a sigh of relief that I can talk to someone, someone I can vent to.
Yeah. And you know what, a lot of people that are out there don't have somebody. Some of them do have a strong support system, whether it's family or friends, but there are some individuals that don't have that.
Right.
And you become that individual, so I think that is great. So Randy, do you have a story about a survivor or someone that you got to be on the phone with that changed your life and or your perspective?
Well, I have family members who've been through that situation, and I've had, few friends, and just them holding it in for so long and not expressing themselves, that's what kind of keeps them in that shell. And what we're trying to do is break them out that shell. Speak up. If it's not to us, speak to someone around you, a friend, a family member. Just kind of come out there and say, hey, I just need somebody to talk to. Even if somebody really can't help, speaking with someone is going to help you as much as possible.
Yeah, there's a lot of movements out there of kind of saying that exactly. There's the Me Too, the Us Too, the Speak Up. There's just a lot of movements that are definitely encouraging that, to have a voice, to have a stance in this. I think that's super awesome. And Randy, I want to thank you for being the light at the end of the tunnel for some of these survivors. I want to thank you for being a part of this team. And we're going to see you here in a little bit later as well. Thank you. So up next, we have Kim Case. So Kim Case is our sexual abuse survivor ambassador. We're going to meet her here in 1 second, and we want to definitely welcome Kim Case. Hi, Kim. Welcome. Hi, Kim. Welcome. So Kim is off she is off-site. She's not on the studio. So let's see if Kim can hear us. Kim, can you hear us?
Hi, thank you so much.
Awesome, Kim. So let me make sure everything's up and running. So I just finished introducing you, so I want to welcome you onto the show. So tell us a little bit about your position here at D. Miller and Associates, PLLC.
Survivor Ambassador, I have the honor of providing the wraparound services not only to our clients but also to our staff and team. I am so honored to be a voice to those without a voice, or those that have a hard time finding their voice. And now is the time to be able to have people rise up and reclaim their stories.
Wow, we're going to talk about this position and really what it means. I think it's so impactful, Kim, that you are a sexual abuse survivor ambassador. That is beyond powerful right there. But before we uncover that, tell us about the importance of this position and what you're going to do to help other survivors like yourself.
This is a very progressive role as I see it. I am so proud of the founder and the lead attorneys here at this firm for seeing the need to have someone that is able to bring, 25 years of experience of working with survivors of crime to help them transition from victim to survivor. So often, some of the needs are met through case managers and through advocacy services, but helping them find the empowerment to become a survivor is where I get to step in and join Mary and Randy in their efforts of putting a good case together. So I'm so proud to be able to offer that.
Yeah, and you know what? Likewise, we're so proud to have you on our team. So we just talked about that title. It's Sexual Abuse Survivor Ambassador. So tell us a little bit about your story and how you even got in this field, Kim.
Well, I was 19 at the time of becoming a crime victim, where you see everything in front of you, all of your hopes and dreams, and everything is possible. And I was a victim of a crime. 4 offenders in a gang followed me home and kidnapped me. And it was one of those experiences where you feel that would never happen to me. And through the years of trying to incorporate that experience into who I am as a person and as a woman, and while also going through the criminal justice system, I have found that there's so many gaps, but there are also so many ways where those stakeholders, like our team here at D. Miller and Associates, can wrap around and provide that continuity of care that helps someone become a survivor. And for me, the empowerment piece came from those that have walked alongside me, that have helped me share my story, that have helped manage my case and offer resources and support so that I could become a whole person again.
Wow, that just gave me chills, Kim, because you're right. It's the journey after everything and surviving the sexual abuse. That journey is that important. So I want to first and foremost thank you for sharing your story. We're going to have you on the last episode of this series, and we're going to really dive deep into your story as a survivor and everything you experienced. You've been so kind enough to be very transparent with our viewers, so that way they can hear and see of what's going on out there and those crimes that are happening, but I think you, as well as Mary and Randy, walking alongside these survivors is super impactful, because you said one thing is getting them back to whole. So let's talk about what you're the most excited about, Kim, about not only joining this team, but things that you're going to bring to the table to getting these survivors back to whole.
Yeah. Honestly, it makes me choked up, because I think about being able to share hope in the midst of these systematic and institutional type cases that your firm is dealing with. And so many victims have not had a chance to have reconciliation, and they've lost the idea that they can have hope again. And so as an ambassador, I'm so proud to be able to speak that because of how hard everyone is working to bring restoration to their case. And so that piece, and then also the outreach and advocacy. I love to share information so that people are empowered and know that even in the midst of difficult times, even like what our world is facing now, that through conversation and brave moments together, that we can all be okay again. And so for the outreach and advocacy piece, that is key importance. And then also, I desire to offer resiliency and good self-care, and make sure that those of us on the front line that are in these cases, that are reading the facts of these cases, and our survivors feel that they can, again, smile and have hope and joy again. So just good practices around trauma-informed care, keeping up to date on any trends and any things that emerging in this field to bring to us, so that we can continue to be a leader in representing these cases as we see so many things come out in the media, but that our survivors, when they join with us here at D. Miller and Associates, they know that we are there for them, that we have, again, that continuity of care in mind for them.
Yeah, I definitely hear your excitement, Kim, and I'm super excited to kind of see what you're also going to do for our survivors. There's a lot of opportunity. I will say in our world right now, there's a lot of opportunity for one big word that I will say, which is change. We can change the sexual abuse side of things and restore that hope. And kind of speaking about that, how have you been around other survivors, and have you already restored their hope?
Boy, to think that I have is such an honor. I think what I like to do most is just join them where they are. And I heard Mary speak of that and Brandy speak of that so eloquently, just being there in the moment to help problem solve, to hold their hand, even if it's virtually. And then just to know that, again, there is light through the tunnel. I think Mary say that. And it's the truth. It's really about choice. And once you see someone championing change in a way where It doesn't mean that there is necessarily some certain outcome. It's that we're all walking in this together, just like we've seen in these protests and in the media, that we're willing to join together, stand next to each other, have conversations. And that's what we intend to do with them, to offer that hope, is just to meet them where they are, look into their eyes, smile, hug if we can, and just know that together we're in this. They're not alone.
Yeah, I think that's super powerful, Kim, because you're right. Sometimes just having that support system and having someone walk alongside you is just as impactful as just giving their story. So I want to ask you our last question for you, Kim. It's kind of a deep question. So what about your story that you experienced and that you survived has changed your life?
I think for me, knowing that sometimes people are out to harm, and that is the core of it, and it's not fair, and that we don't necessarily get to be in charge in moments of victimization, and so we have to then deal with the after effects, and we have to lean into systems and services to help us find some balance again. But I think remembering, and what I've tried to take away and feel through counseling and support services and my faith, is that it's okay to rewrite our story at any time. We have that power. We can build a family and a team of people that we can believe in, that love us and trust us, and that we can rebuild our story. So just because that happened to me, and it did define, and it has still defined many of the decisions in the life that I've had to live, but it's also brought some really unique ways of understanding how important and how fragile life and relationships are, and being able to live each day purposefully, and working to make impact. And I think lastly, being a voice for those that have lost their voice, either through death or homicide, or just through not having the support in order to feel like their voice mattered. And I hold that so humbly to be able to speak on behalf of those, and know that, when I share, that I'm sharing for all of those that have been hurt.
Yeah, and you mentioned one word, rebuild. I think that's a huge part of this journey is rebuilding. It's that aftermath and what that looks like. And I'm super excited to kind of meet every single one of you guys on this team that's helping the survivors rebuild. You also mentioned the systems and the systems in place. Some of the systems are broken, and some of the systems need to be also rebuilt. And in a second, we're going to meet Attorney Rochelle and talking a little bit more about that back end and the systems and stuff like that. Wow, Kim, I'm so excited to have you on the team as a sexual abuse survivor ambassador. You're going to do big things here, and I'm excited to see the hope that you're restoring in the survivors. Thank you so much. Okay, so now we have up next Attorney Rochelle Guyton. So as you guys know, that Rochelle Guyton has been on our past episodes in our sexual abuse, human trafficking episodes, kind of talking and uncovering a lot of things. So Attorney Rochelle Guyton, welcome.
Hello.
It's great to have you. Wow, you and the rest of the team is beyond amazing. We got to meet a lot of the moving forces of what you were talking about in our last episodes. So tell me a little bit about the team and maybe your thoughts about what you've already heard and what you guys are planning on doing.
No, I'm excited. Truly excited about this, and we've taken our time kind of molding this team and making sure that we have a strong front. We want, just like I think all of them agreed in that we want survivors to have that support. We want them to have the help that they need, the resources that they need. And this is going to sound cliche, but I want D. Miller and Associates to be a one-stop shop for those survivors. I want them to be able to call and get the legal resources that they need. I want them to be able to call and speak with a social worker, someone who has a master's degree in social work that's ready to provide those resources that they need, ready to say, oh, you know what, I have a counselor counselor that will fit your needs perfectly, and let me refer you to her. So I'm just ecstatic about the network that we're building here internally, to just kind of be that foundation that I think all survivors need, in being able to do that. So I'm really excited about it.
I'm excited too. So, I mean, you bringing up great points. I mean, whenever you get involved in this part or case type of law of sexual abuse, there's a lot of people that call and cry out for help. And so it's awesome that you've set up more so like a one-stop shop to not have to refer out a social worker or a certain type of expert. You kind of have it here. There may be cases that you may have to, but it's amazing to have it in these four walls.
Absolutely. We have the survivor mentor, someone who has experienced it, and like you said before, rebuilding. She's already kind of gone down that path. And what I hope is that when I have a survivor and that path doesn't seem very bright and it does seem dim and it seems like they can't do it, Kim Case will come and stand in our stead to support that survivor and say, you know what, I did it, you can do it too, because they can. And so it's just exciting to be able to just have those, persons in place. I like to look at it kind of like we're on our own little task force. And, we're here. And that's what we want our survivors to know.
I love it. And I know that they're getting that same vibe from the show. So now, as a previous district attorney and sex crimes prosecutor that you used to be, tell us about the difference in dynamics on the criminal side and at the law firm that we're at now and on the civil side.
I mean, I think, of course, lots of aspects are the same. All cases are going to have statutes of limitations, and it's going to vary depending on the type of case and where it happened, where the incident happened. And there's some similarities. But I will say, with this team and what we're talking about today, I've tried very hard, along with Mr. Miller, to make sure that we have a kind of a similar setup, what I've seen in the past as a prosecutor with the crimes against children. It is a one-stop shop, so those survivors don't have to keep telling their stories over and over to the people that they need.
Yeah.
And so we're going to band together. And so, like I said, it is a task force of sorts. But I do, would like to take a part in kind of campaigning for, the civil side to have some of the same protections that we have on the criminal side for complainants, to make sure that they're not having to tell those stories over and over again and rewriting statements and things of that sort, and being able to just champion that survivor's voice, but still have the protections of the law behind them. I do think that there's fear in litigation on criminal and civil side. There's fear in coming out with your story. And so making sure that we have some measures in place, right, so that they feel more secure in coming out with what's happened to them, because the fear can silence them, and we don't want that.
Right.
So I certainly, hope that we can kind of, be a champion of the front lines of sorts, in that aspect, and start seeing things like this happening more often.
So let's talk a little bit about what you just mentioned. You kind of want to bring some of that help that's on the criminal side, right? And for those viewers that may not know, if they are coming on the civil side, do they almost have to go and have a separate case on the criminal side, or go tell their story again on the criminal side? Is that how that works?
Yeah. So it's different in that, for example, as a prosecutor, when I worked child sexual abuse cases, I took every effort to try not to have that story just retold over and over again, even, with the same facts. So they might tell it when that offense was first reported, and they would have what's called a forensic interview. And we could, as law enforcement individuals, be able to watch that video as much as needed. I could share it only with persons that were within that team, so that we all kind of knew what happened, and they thoroughly would tell their story. And so my hope is that, we could do some similar things in our work here, And even if we just start that cornerstone right here at D. Miller and Associates and say, okay, we're going to meet with the survivor, we're going to document the story, we're going to document it well, and we're going to try to preserve it in a sense that they won't have to just keep reiterating those same facts, so that the day that they step in the door here and hire us, that they're able to just like Kim said, to start that rebuilding process and not reliving those facts over and over again.
Yeah, based upon your experience, let's talk about that. A survivor having to tell their story numerous times, how can that really hurt and or affect the survivor?
Oh, it's traumatic, and it's extremely traumatic, and I think, there's a misconception when people go into counseling that they're having to tell that story over and over again. But I think when they go to, trauma-based, trauma-informed counselors, they, understand that story, and then they help them find what their triggers are. So they grow from that. They grow from their conversations. But there's a way in which sometimes, in general terms, as a litigator, that we're going to ask them questions, and we may ask one question differently so that we're making sure that we've got the story understood. And, I think that it's mentally draining, it's emotionally draining. It's just traumatic, especially when, you're looking years down the line, and they're trying to grow from this. These are facts that we're bringing out that nobody ever wants to relive or think about. And I could imagine in those shoes, I would want to forget. So, it's difficult. And my hope is that, we can try to decrease that as much as possible.
I love that you want to bring that to the table, because it is difficult. I'm pretty sure having to uncover something out of a box that you just want to lock it up and just throw it away. You don't even want to bring it back. So I love the things that you're bringing from your past experience here to kind of make it more efficient and effective as well. I want you to explain a little bit in depth to our viewers, what is the process on the litigation side? I know that's a big, tricky question, because you know it well, going to law school, but we don't, right?
And you mean like kind of in general terms?
In general terms, yes, not talking about a specific scenario, but how does the process even go when they tell their story to us and get on the phone for the first time? What does that look like?
Right. So, that's a very loaded question, but it's important. And what I would want any of the viewers to kind of take away from this question is that it's not like CSI. It's not like Law and Order. You have the Hollywood version of what it looks like to be a trial attorney or a litigator, and you have reality. And we don't get that evidence at the snap of a finger. The process isn't as quickly as we all would want, right? Even as a lawyer, I would want that process to go very quickly for my client. But it just doesn't work that way. So every case has its own individual dynamics, its own individual facts, and oftentimes it depends on what court you're in, what state you're in. There's lots of things that you have to consider, and this isn't just for sexual abuse cases. This is going to be across the board for any kind of case, a criminal case or any kind of civil case. I definitely think that those are great questions to ask your attorney when you're first doing your intake and, first consult with your lawyer, is to start asking about those timelines. And depending on circumstances, we probably could give maybe a guesstimation of what that would look like. But it's going to vary. It's not at all, you have the CSI with the fancy TVs.
Yes.
And they get DNA back in a day, and, that's just not reality.
Yeah.
We live in a world where it takes months and months to get DNA results, for example. So, yeah, it's, it just takes time.
And another thing that we see a lot I like how you put it, in the Hollywood side. Let's put that out there. In the Hollywood side, you see them in front of a judge and you have a jury. Does it always go, just in your experience and in general, does it always go to that magnitude on some cases?
Not always, right? So you could have depositions, you could have mediation, you could settle, you could come to an agreement. In my opinion, most attorneys are going to, especially on sexual abuse cases, are going to, try very hard to settle those cases so that the survivor doesn't have to testify and repeat that story. Trial and litigation can be stressful, but of course you want an attorney that's ready for that. That
Correct.
is, ready if the settlement doesn't happen or the mediation doesn't work out, that trial is still a possibility. But yeah, there are lots of things that happen, discovery process that is prolonged, and it depends on the how large your case is and things of that aspect.
Well, you definitely sound ready. You are that ready attorney. I do have a couple of comments that I want us to really get to our viewer here that's commenting. Great comment. So Kimberly is saying, it is so important for a survivor to know that who they are speaking to understands everything. And then she said, what an amazing program. So thank you, Kimberly. I have Kathy saying, such good information. So I'm glad we are all able to provide some good information. Kimberly's coming back saying, yes, reliving is trauma all over again. So glad you understand that. And then she's also saying statute of limitations should be abolished across the nation. Give us some thoughts on these comments.
Yeah, I mean that is goodness. That's a tough comment there. I think that there's some good things happening across the country. I think that, for example, even in California, they had the statute open for child sexual abuse crimes. And this is helpful, right? When you have individuals, especially, 30, 40 years ago when, these crimes were unheard of because
Correct.
they were literally swept under the rug. And so I do think, with people being more active and, stepping out in faith, and using their voices, coming out with their stories, especially when people in positions of, authority or celebrity, start stepping out and telling their stories. I think it's amazing because we all start seeing what we've missed in the past and how we've silenced people, and then they've not had the opportunity to have the law on their side. So, I think that's a great point that, especially in child sexual abuse cases, how that would be helpful for people who maybe didn't even know at the time that it was wrong.
Right.
The dynamics of those cases are just, so, powerful, and it affects their lives forever.
Yeah, and I want to kind of dive a little bit deeper on that. Kimberly was mentioning statute of limitations. You kind of mentioned some of these laws are based upon something that happened in the past. And some of these stories haven't been uncovered in the past, okay? Some people didn't have the courage to even say anything. They didn't even think they had a voice. They didn't even think that they would be heard today. And I think this is very powerful because now more and more are coming out
Absolutely.
and saying, I have a story, changing laws.
Absolutely. It's amazing, where back, 30, 40 years ago, I mean, even 5 years ago, right? The shame was on the survivor, and now I think it's a great time to step out and have a voice because we've all realized, and that the perpetrator, shame on them. The guilt, the shame, the embarrassment should be on them rather than on these survivors. So, I think that's a great point.
And I think that's great because right now is the time. Change is all over us, all around us right now. So now's the time. If you're a little hesitant, we want you to get that courage and speak up. Our world is speaking up right now in other topics and other things that are prevalent to the society. And I think right now is a good time because you have a listening ear.
Yes.
I think that's very powerful. So now, Attorney Rochelle Guyton, I want to ask you, because we kind of talked about the litigation, what does the life of a case generally look like?
So I think that's a tough question. I don't know that I could generally tell what the life of a case looks like, but what I kind of hope everybody gets from watching the show is that we've got this network of team this team that networks together constantly about the case. And so it'd be to the extent where you'll have Randy working on, the beginning phases of your case, where we're going to try to start collecting evidence and statements and things, and get you in touch with Mary and Kim to try to figure out what that story is. How can we, make sure that we corroborate that story with the evidence that Randy is going to work on collecting, and then thereafter rebuild and make sure that survivor has things in place, the resources that they need, the network that they need, the support that they need in order to continue flourishing through that process. It just kind of depends on, what type of case it is. But I'd like to think that because we have that network, because we're communicating like that, that we're able to progress through the case a lot faster than normal.
Yeah. And look, and I will say, it sounds like there's not really a time frame. Every case is different, all that good stuff. But if you guys are making change as attorneys and changing laws, things may take a little bit longer because that takes time to implement. And then now they almost look at new evidence, new facts, new cases with the new law.
Right. And here's the thing, we may be willing, in certain circumstances to take a case that's been time barred, but I've got to figure out if there are avenues to work around those statute of limitations, or we may be abreast of what's coming next in another state, or, in another area of law. And so, we don't know it all, in all cases, but if I have a client that has that issue, we're going to dig in, we're going to research it, we're going to work on it, because, I think everybody deserves to have that voice. Everybody deserves to have their day in court. And, like you said, now is the time, now is the time to speak up and demand change.
Demand. I think, what, you're right. It's always the time, right? Let's be very clear. It's always the time. But right now, the demanding is we have ears that are listening now.
Yes.
And I think that's powerful, because that's where attorneys can demand change laws, and really be heard and not pushed to the side. Now, you guys fight really hard. Okay, so, but I want to ask you, Attorney Rochelle Guyton, when someone gives you their story, and I know they're very passionate, they have a lot of emotion. Some of them are sad, and some of them are stronger than others. Some of them have their journeys are very different. How do you, as an attorney, make sure to tell their story in a way that justice is served?
So that kind of takes time. I want to get to know that person. I want to get to know how it affected them, how it affected their life, how it affected the people around them. I want to put myself in their shoes. I want to feel the emotion that they felt. And, I always think about, my preparation for my closing argument. I'm trying to paint a picture for the jury or the mediator or the other attorney that I'm negotiating with. And so when I paint that picture, it helps me to know what that person's experience. In a child sexual abuse case, I'll give you an example. I had a really heartbreaking case a few years ago with 3 kids under 10. Just absolutely
3 kids.
Wow. 3 kids under 10. Heartbreaking case. And, what I tried to do at that point, right, it's hard to see it through the eyes of a child, right? But I put myself in the shoes of the mom. And what was she thinking when her kids came and told her this? And what was she thinking? What steps did she take? What questions did she ask? What concerns did she have? Moms, you think of a mom like having to put on that good front, right? Kid is telling you this awful, awful thing that happened, and you've got to save face and put on a good front for your kid. But inside, you are dying. Your heart is breaking. And so, just painting that picture of what was it like in that very moment. And I have to know my clients. I have to know that survivor in order to do that.
Yeah, I think, you said it very well, telling the story through the eyes of the survivor, whether that is a child, whether it's a woman, whether it's a man. Everyone's story deserves to be told so that there could be justice. Now, look, you and I could talk for almost
know.
an hour and a half. I think you bring such interesting points, and the perspective of law from an attorney's perspective. A lot of us watch the Hollywood legal side and are very interested, but there is the reality legal side, and that's what I'm most interested in, and how we can help educate, and most importantly, I'm going to keep saying it, is change perspectives, change our environment, laws, etc. I think having more having attorneys like yourself is what's going to really encompass that change. Now, I'm going to get to our last question with you, Attorney Rochelle, is that tell us about your passion and what influenced you as an attorney to fight for sexual abuse victims and survivors.
You know, it's funny. I don't know that I always thought I would be an attorney. I knew that I wanted to be influential to children. I wanted to inspire and, in whatever capacity that was going to be. And so it was kind of a God thing, I think, that I wound up being an attorney that worked on sexual abuse. The bulk of my experience has been in child sexual abuse, but I've also handled adult cases. And, it just kind of spawned from there, being able to just, I've, thank God, have the ability to compartmentalize a lot of it, so that I can relate to them in the aspect of, how can I help you? What can I do? And then still be able to, live a normal life and not be so downtrodden by all the facts and gory details. So, I think it's a God thing, and I had a great experience working at a satellite location as an attorney with the Children's Advocacy Center. Really opened my eyes to the need. I mean, sometimes I think we're just like kind of tipping the surface, on this whole sexual abuse thing. There's so many out there that haven't been heard, and so many that are afraid to come out and tell their stories. I think there needs to be a ton more attorneys, that are working in this field, because it's just the tip of the iceberg, and there's so much out there. We hear so much. So, I think my passion just comes from like fulfilling a need, and just being compassionate to somebody that's experienced a very serious trauma. I take a lot of pride in that, and being able to listen and provide that support. So,
and you said something which is very sadly for us to hear, but there's so many out there. There's so many that we haven't touched and other attorneys haven't touched. But one thing I'm very excited is I hear your passion, but most importantly, I hear your purpose. And I think that's so powerful to have you keep going and fighting for the sexual abuse and just being a voice and being very powerful. So I want to thank you, Attorney Rochelle Guyton. But now we're going to go ahead and bring on the full team back on the show. So what a powerful team. This team has been showing us a lot of stuff, telling us a lot of stuff, which I think is great. And so we're going to go ahead and welcome everyone back on the show. So welcome, ladies. We're going to bring on also Kim is on here as well. So first of all, I want to say we have power in this room. And we have women right now. I think that's super powerful. You never know, there may be a man that joins our team, right? But this is super powerful and super moving for myself. So let's talk a little bit about the unity of this team. The unity really shows what you guys are doing as a team to give our community and just to ensure that this topic is communicated across the board. One thing that every single one of you guys in this room said was that you guys want to be there for them. You want to be a listening ear for them, and you want to educate. Every single one of you guys, no matter what your positioning is. So I think that is super powerful, and I think that's exactly what we need to do, is we need to all be a listening ear. If it's something that you, as a family member or friend, letting someone know, getting help, That's what we're here. But every single one of these women that are in here is their number one focus is listening and being a helping hand to someone. So definitely want to ask you guys, what will you guys do as a team? Okay, this is a big team for me right now, to give to our community and to ensure that all those things are incorporated and everyone's educated on this topic.
Just giving education, letting people know about sexual abuse, sexual assault, letting them know about it, just educating the community.
Exactly. What do you guys plan on doing to educate the community, to get some more of that? I mean, this is one factor, right? This is one platform we have. But there's so many other ways to touch lives. And how do you guys plan on doing that?
So I think what a big part of our community outreach is going to be getting out to schools, universities, libraries, PTOs, having seminars. I'm one of those people, anybody that will listen,
Yeah.
And just provide the information, provide signs and symptoms of sexual abuse so that they can start paying attention to their friends, to their neighbors, providing, signs and symptoms of cyber bullying and sexual abuse that starts online. We have these huge platforms, Facebook, Instagram, social media, and, we've got children on there and they don't know that sometimes the people that they're talking to are not at their, looking for their best interests. So just, being able to provide those safety measures, and just get out into the community.
Look, and I think one thing you said that's very important is technology right now. Our kids are on YouTube. A lot of you guys have cut the cable and you're like, here you go, kid, watch your YouTube. I think that speaks high measures, but something like this episode is on YouTube, okay? And look, our Survivor Ambassador is right now on video. On our Zoom call. So it's very powerful in technology. Kim, what is one way that you also want to educate? You being video based, I think that is powerful because you could touch way more lives, but not just that. You have already educated so many people on different platforms. So how do you plan on doing that as well? Okay, so Kim, I think she cannot hear us right now. That's our technology failing us right now. But let me ask the team a question. So what is one thing, I know we're kind of getting close to the end of the show. If you guys had to leave our viewers right now with one last thing, what would you tell our viewers in regards to anything, a quote or a passion?
Don't be judgmental. Letting the survivor voice be heard. Letting the survivor
When things are
saying
something and speaking up on behalf.
Taking that power back. The survivor, she wants that, or he wants that power back. So letting them have their power. So let that survivor have their power and don't be judgmental.
Yeah, that is awesome. That's a great last little nugget that you threw to our viewers. Randy, what is one more last quote or thought that you want to leave our viewers with?
Reach out to someone, anyone, like express yourself. Bottling all in is just, it's going to hurt you in the long run because you need to express yourself, and expressing yourself to either our team, either your family member or friend, it's going to help, like in all aspects. Just someone to talk to, or maybe they can help you with any kind of assistance you need. Just reaching out to anyone around you, that'll help in the long run.
Look, I'm going to agree with you. A lot of people, it may be therapeutic. A lot of people, it might be scary. Oh my goodness, I have to tell my story of something that happened to me. Taking that first step is a huge step. Right. However, look who you have in this room to support and to hold your hand the whole way. I think that's what's important.
Doing it on their time. You can do it on your time.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Doing it on their time, because there's a lot of different resources out there.
Yeah.
on your time and share what you want.
Yeah, there may be people that experience this as children and now as an adulthood are telling their story right now. I think those are great points, ladies, and I want to turn it over to Attorney Rochelle and kind of end it with a bang. What is one last thing that you want to leave our viewers with?
You know, I mean, I just am so ecstatic about this powerhouse team that we have, but I just want to implore our community to have the same attitude towards sexual abuse. And, you know, Mary said it perfectly, don't be judgmental. You know, everybody's story is different. And, you know, it's the same for all the things that are going on in our country right now. Everybody's story is different. We're all individuals that, you know, we have to be respected for the lives and experiences that we've had, and just having a listening ear. And so just kind of imploring to just, like, you know, share this attitude, this feeling or duty to help and support. I'd love to just kind of see that, you know, spread like wildfire, and just, you know, everybody take responsibility for, you know, being that crutch when someone else needs it.
Absolutely. That is very well said. And I know we will be having more episodes in the series. I'm going to go ahead and end it with this comment. I have Laura that says, great and powerful team. So much wisdom. Man, I have to agree with Laura. Laura, that is so great that you said that. And I definitely agree with you on that. And this team is just going to keep growing. Okay. It doesn't just end right here. There's going to be probably more here in the future, because we want to try to touch as many lives as possible. I want to thank you again to the sexual abuse, human trafficking team for joining us. Tune in to the next episodes. What case types look like. We're going to kind of talk about that. There's so many, and there's so many in each case type. And we will also have Kim Case, a sexual abuse survivor that you just met earlier, to speak about her story and where she is now and where her journey was. Sexual abuse is a serious matter in our community. In this series, we want to educate victims, families, and friends, and anyone that is listening ear to those going through this tough time. I highly encourage you to go watch our previous episodes. Those episodes will highlight what is sexual abuse and how to recognize it, types of safety and help in our community for those that are in need. Together, we are stronger, and together we can help one another fight for what's right. I want to thank you all for tuning in to Talk to Me Tuesday. And most importantly, I want to thank you for sharing this. The more you share, the more we get to educate other people in our society to make a difference. I want to thank you for liking this program and tuning in to Talk to Me Tuesday. Until next time.
Human trafficking is a worldwide epidemic. Awareness, accountability, and action will be crucial to saving our communities. The wrath of human trafficking crosses gender lines, ethnicities, and all age groups. Traffickers and abusers want you to feel as though you are alone, hopeless, worthless, but you are fighters. You are strong. You are survivors. You are worth everything. You are not alone. Let us give you a voice. A simple phone call will get you the help that you deserve, the help that you need. We will ensure that we are with you every step of the way. The team of attorneys at D. Miller & Associates, PLLC, is ready to fight for you, to change your life, to change the community, and to change the world. Let us be your voice. Give us a call at 713-850